Students at a White Bear Lake school get candid with area police. We'll show you how Century College is facilitating the introductions. Plus, a crime-fighting force is getting friendly with White Bear Lake Fire. We'll have the details, and the Lake Area Beat family keeps growing. We've got a surprise coming your way. I'm Tracy Minarchek out at Stellmacher Park, enjoying the beginning of spring. Well, not really. It's one of many well-maintained parks in White Bear Lake. And who is this guy, you may ask? Well, this, ta-da, is my new co-host, Rick Current. Actually, I should say Assistant Fire Chief.
That's all right.
Rick Current. And we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And so what's the deal? We had Chief Peterson from the fire department.
Yes.
He was kind enough to fill in. We had nobody for a while, so he filled in, and now you're here. And how long have you been on the job?
Well, this is my fourth week on the job.
Okay, the beginning of your fourth week.
Yes.
All right.
So I'm excited to be here.
We're happy to have you.
And like she said, I'm the new Assistant Chief Fire Marshal. I'll be taking over for Mike Turnbull, who you'll hear about later in the show.
And among your job duties is going to be co-hosting?
Co-hosting. So you'll see a lot of me. I have a lot of good ideas coming forward. There's a lot of exciting things going on in the fire department, and we'll cover those in future shows. I've been doing this for about 20 years. My last fire department, I was the Deputy Chief Fire Marshal at the Lake Johanna Fire Department, which neighbors over to our west.
Okay, and where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Woodbury.
Oh, Woodbury. So you kind of all around White Bear, not yet in White Bear.
Correct. East Sider, though.
Okay.
East Sider.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you. Thanks for joining us today. And it's a little cold today.
Yes, it
so
is.
So you're putting on a brave smile.
Try not to shiver too much.
It's spring. Not really. Again, we're very happy to have you. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Law enforcement hopefuls got a lot of face time with the police.
Century College sponsored a law enforcement fair for students, and you may recognize some talent manning a booth and talking with the next generation of potential police officers.
So is that full staff?
We are hosting our second annual Law Enforcement Education and Employment Fair. So we are bringing together employers, being law enforcement agencies, from generally around the metro area and primarily the east side, along with the different services at the college like financial aid, admissions, counseling, career services, so that our current students and then hopefully recruiting new students can all be served in sort of a one-stop shop while also looking for employment opportunities.
Going through a crisis, family members have died, we're going there.
I can feel the energy in the room. So there's the networking aspect that's happening both from a police officer to another police officer, but also more importantly, students to police officers. And I think when you have that energy, it gets people to open up, it gets people to ask questions. It's a very non-intimidating environment, so people can have sort of private conversations without, needing to raise their hand and ask a question in front of a large group. And our students they articulate just being appreciative of having everyone here and that they're providing jobs or opportunities for jobs versus, looking up on the internet or whatever the case may be.
I'm the owner.
heard from many locations that the best is to apply for the reserve or the cadets field, just so I have an ideally of which department I wanted to pursue into. And I guess that's definitely a good starting point for myself.
White Bear Lake, after you get out of training, you're allowed to go by yourself.
If you had a need to help others, and I think, law enforcement is like a great occupation that you should go for if you like to help others and just like to be in the communities.
The fair is such a great idea because they have so many different law enforcement agencies that people can ask, like state or county or local. They can ask questions from everybody, so it was a great turnout.
Great. We're going to take a break, but first, here's Sergeant John Vetty.
I'm Sergeant John Vetty. About 115 children are abducted by strangers or minor acquaintances every year. And although that represents a small percentage of all missing children, it's important to talk with your kids about talking to strangers. The word stranger actually confuses children. A child likely envisions a stranger to be someone very threatening, which isn't always the case. Rather than telling your kids to avoid strangers, explain they need permission before going anywhere with anyone. If they need help, tell them to look for a uniformed officer, a store clerk with a name tag, or a parent with children. Explain to your children, rules change when they're in danger. It's okay to act out, make a mess, and shout in a store if someone's trying to grab them. If your child is approached by someone in a vehicle, they should walk in the opposite direction the car is facing. It makes it more difficult for predators to follow. Travel to school every few weeks with your kids to check out their route. And don't neglect online dangers. Be aware of your child's activity online and who they may be chatting with. That 12-year-old boy may be a pedophile looking to victimize children. Talking with your kids about critical matters can be difficult, but by remaining silent, kids develop their own conclusions. Be clear and concise, and have the difficult talks. It may be the most important conversation you ever will have. I'll see you next time.
Welcome back. 115 people die every day in the United States as a result of opioid overdoses, and Minnesota has experienced a significant increase in the last several years.
Randy Anderson with the Steve Rumler Hope Network is going to tell us what's being done locally to fight this deadly epidemic.
Randy, thank you for being here.
You bet.
Tell us about your project. What does it entail? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, so I'm a person in long-term recovery. In January, I just celebrated 13 years.
Congratulations.
And thank you. So, and often I tell people the reason why I took this job is because I just want others to have the gift of recovery. And at the rates they're dying today, people aren't given that opportunity. So the Steve Rumler Hope Network started in 2011 after the death of Steve Rumler. He died. He was prescribed opioids for pain, for back injury, could no longer get that medication. Switched to heroin. We think it was the first time he'd used it. A friend of his got him some heroin. They went back to his place, used, and died. So his parents started the Steve Rumler Hope Network 2 weeks after his death, just to honor Steve. And really their goal was to, if they could prevent one family from feeling that same pain, that was all they hoped.
And so where does the funding come from?
That gets to be tricky sometimes. So up until last year, most of our funding was private. Through donations, little tiny grants here and there. The Department of Human Services did, though, give us a large grant. So there's a state targeted response grants that came down from the federal government last year, and we were very fortunate to receive a lot of that money for naloxone. So we got $100,000 for this fiscal year, $100,000 for next fiscal year. So that's why we're able to distribute so much naloxone now into the community.
And naloxone.
What is naloxone?
Yeah,
right?
we know what naloxone is, but for our viewers who may not know what it is, what is it?
So naloxone, also known as Narcan, those names can be interchanged. You hear it both ways. It's a medication that is either given through a nasal spray or an intramuscular version, and it acts in the brain to immediately reverse the effects of an overdose. So you have receptors in your brain, and when you take opioids, it floods those receptors, sends a signal to your lungs saying you don't need to breathe right now, which we know you do. So the naloxone, once it's into the system, goes to the brain, it knocks the opioid off the receptor and blocks the receptor so no more opioids can get in, essentially immediately reversing the effects of the overdose.
We hear about the opioid crisis every day in the news. Why do you think it's getting worse?
Well, so I think we're just, well, so one of the reasons I can't ignore is the amount of synthetic opioids that is being flooded into our markets. So we're seeing fentanyl overdoses increase greatly, and carfentanil, which is an elephant tranquilizer, we're now starting to see, we had 14 confirmed deaths last year in Minnesota. That medication is not even made in the United States, so it's being shipped in from most likely China. That's where we think most of it's made. But the amount of fentanyl, really, the fentanyl overdoses keep increasing, and this all, though, started back with the pain prescription, like prescription pain medication. The doctors were told and believed that that was the standard of care, and we can't have pain, subscribe opioids, they're the magic drug or medication for it. Well, now we know that that was a lie, and doctors got into really bad prescribing habits for years. So now we're seeing the tail end of that, where people are no longer able to get the medication, they're switching to street drugs. That's all, though, a result of the prescription pain medication.
So it's just kind of a snowball.
Correct.
effect.
It's with the new CDC prescribing guidelines, and doctors are more cautious because they don't want to get in trouble. We want to be really careful, though. We don't want to ignore pain patients because there's still, those medications do play a role. However, we've been overprescribing for so long that it's hard to get away from those practices.
And now tell us, you brought something with you today. And what is this, and what do you do with your
So this is an overdose prevention kit. So I go into the community and I do training. So I'm the overdose prevention manager. So my job is to make sure the entire state of Minnesota knows what naloxone or Narcan is, knows how to identify the signs of an opioid overdose, and knows how to save someone's life. And this is one of the kits that we provide. This one is what most of you guys carry, first responders, is the nasal version. So this is a Narcan nasal spray. You peel the back off. Really simple to use. You peel the back off, you stick it over their nose, and you squeeze, and you potentially save their life. We put 3 doses in every kit now, though, because of the high amounts of synthetic opioids that are in the market. They're much more potent. So before we used to put 2 doses, but we found that people are needing more. With drugs like carfentanil, I have heard stories of it taking 8 or 9 doses to reverse that overdose.
Wow.
So it's really dangerous. So that's what we give out.
What can the average person do?
So the average person can be trained. We have public trainings all the time. In fact, we have 4 coming up in Washington County over the next month. This Friday is our first one at the Woodbury, Lunds, and Byerly's at the community room. And Lakeview Hospital is helping us host 3 public trainings in April, and then 1, I think, in May. So they're on their website, they're advertising for us. But go get trained, learn how to identify the signs of an opioid overdose, get the medication so you can carry it and you may be able to save someone's life.
And where can they go for information on your group if somebody wants to donate or if they want to get more information or training?
So we have a very good website at www.steverumlerhopenetwork.com. Long name. We're very active on social media. All of our events, our public events, are listed on social media. Actually, the Minnesota Department of Human Services lists our public events on their website too. You can just type in naloxone training in the search box on their website, and you can find a public training.
And do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that I want everyone to be able to know what an opioid overdose is, know how to save someone's life, and I want those that are dying today to really have the opportunity to live a life in recovery. And we see people not getting that opportunity because they're dying.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show and for your work.
Yeah, thank you very much.
For more information on the Steve Rumler Hope Network, visit their website. Partnerships between the community and first responders are paramount when it comes to fighting crime. And one of our most valuable resources is the senior group Triad.
White Bear Lake EMT Chris Voss recently hosted a show and tell of sorts when she spoke with the group about her trip to Bavaria. If you recall, Chris appeared on the show back in February and told us about her remarkable journey and time working with Bavaria's Red Cross. The Triad folks were eager to learn from Chris, and member Christian Gady says Triad seniors have a lot to offer the community.
Well, it's a lot of fun. This is a very rowdy group of seniors, and they're actively involved in the community. Yeah. So we never have problems with people signing up for events.
A big thanks to Triad for all they do to help keep White Bear Lake safe. An increasing problem in the United States and Minnesota that many people are unaware of is workplace violence in emergency rooms.
Former White Bear Lake firefighter and emergency room technician Jeff Lokes has launched a campaign to shed light on this dark subject. We'll have a series of interviews highlighting the experiences of ER techs, beginning with Jason, who explains the process of processing.
I've been a ER tech probably for 14 years. And then I'm a nursing assistant in the burn unit, and I've been there for 8 years. So it's kind of a good combination of the two. And the fact that you get to help people is one of the, I mean, I love helping people. I love trying to make people feel better about their situation. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. There's a lot of physical aspects to the job. And there are some days where patients are, I guess, not the best behaved, I guess you could say, depending on their situation. It's like washing dishes. Eventually you will break a dish. You will drop a glass. Eventually you probably will get punched. I've been punched, I've been spit at, I've been bit. I've had certain materials thrown at me that are not very pleasant. It's just one of those things where sometimes the patient doesn't realize what they're doing because they are in a place mentally or physically that they don't know. And sometimes the patients know very well what they're doing and they do it just because they're mad. There are some days that are harder than others, and you have to learn how to work through it, cope. Find your coping skill or how you can deal with it and burn out the stress that you've captured during the day. It's important to be able to find the resources. And a lot of people, I think, that work in medicine or healthcare feel like they can do it themselves. And it's really not possible. I journal. I'll go home and I'll write about it, and then it's kind of out of my head on paper, said and done. I work out a lot. It's always a good way to burn stress by lifting weights or running or doing something that exerts energy. I found that my faith helps a lot too. I find things that I can put my energy into outside of work that help me rebuild me. We're dealing with people that are broken in different ways, whether it be physically, health, mentally, whatever, and they're relying on us to make it better. If you've got a low patience tolerance and a short fuse, this might not be the correct field for you. You really do have to have a lot of patience for the patients. It's such an array of emotions and physical pain some days that we literally come home and cry. And we endure a lot of abuse, whether it be physical, verbal, or mental. We love our job. We love our coworkers. It's our second family. And if I didn't have my second family, I wouldn't be able to do my job.
Coming up after the break, like a fine whiskey, this longtime member of the fire department has only gotten better with age. We'll tell you who is starting a whole new storyline this month.
We'll be right back.
So our lives are not the same. We have to struggle every single day, and that's why we're talking about it and being very open, is because we don't want any other family to have to go through this.
Spring is a perfect time to clean house. Here's a reminder of a convenient and inexpensive way to free yourself of stuff.
Do do-it-yourselfers love our cleanup because we take pretty much everything except hazardous waste and tree, yard waste and things like that. But yeah, it works out really nice. I mean, we get a really good turnout both spring and fall. The best way, which we try to encourage people to do, is to not come off of 61. We encourage them to go down to County Road F and then come up Hoffman because it lines up that way. We've got our guys here, we got about 8 to 10 of our guys working on site at the same time, helping the various vendors, helping our garbage hauler get rid of the stuff and unload the trucks and get them through as quickly as possible, because that's part of the frustration is waiting in line. We try to do as much recycling as possible. I've got it really down to an art. They come in and they go, oh, we've purged, I'm like, how does it feel to purge all your stuff? They're like, yeah, this is great. We usually get a lot of really happy people in cleanup. We like that. When we do it for a day, they get a bunch and then they give us a reduced rate, and then we just pass on that savings to the residents, which works out really well. It's kind of a win-win for both. We get rid of all that stuff in the city and we're not picking it up on the side of the road, and they get rid of their stuff at a reduced rate, so it works out really well.
The spring cleanup is Saturday, May 5th from 7 in the morning until 1. Check the city's website for more information. White Bear Lake residents joined Vadnais Heights in welcoming home 2 world-class champions.
Take a look at how winning runs in the family.
Great honor to be able to host a party for these great young women and everything that they've accomplished, not only abroad at the Olympics, but here locally. And they really are great ambassadors for our community, and we're happy to have a little fun, short celebration to recognize them and show them we really appreciate all they do.
Winning a gold medal, it was a dream come true. I mean, we worked so hard for it as a team. And just to kind of finally have that happen, it's just incredible, and it's been amazing to be able to share it with people all over the country.
I feel like I've run out of words, like incredible, overwhelming, unbelievable. It's like all of that and more.
We hope to inspire young girls to want to play hockey. It's taught us so much, and we just hope it makes an impact with them as well. So it's great seeing all the kids come out and, yeah, hopefully, inspire them to play and love the game.
We want to inspire the next generation of girls, and I would just tell them you can do anything you set your mind to, and we're just trying to keep that going and just keep inspiring young girls.
Congratulations to the Brandt sisters. And we have another congratulations in order, your predecessor, Mike Turnbull.
Yes, Mike was sworn in on January 1st, 1976. His last day as fire inspector is April 12th, though he'll remain on as a paid on-call medic. Mike is widely respected and put a lot of effort into the fire education and prevention programs. And here's what one of our current EMTs says about him. I believe his fire education, training, and smoke detector program efforts have single-handedly and quietly saved more lives in this city than any one single person in the entire history of the White Bear Lake Fire Department. It is not glamorous, but his work is the real deal, and he is my hero. He also loves cup and cone.
Well, who doesn't love cup and
cone?
Who
doesn't?
And he's appeared as a guest on this show more than any other person. He's been wonderful to work with. We wish him well and congratulate him on over 40 years of service.
Yes, best wishes, Mike. That wraps up this edition of Lake Area Beat. I'm Rick Current.
And I'm Tracy Menarchek. We'll see you next time.
We become sort of like spokespeople for the departments, police, and to say when some people have questions about what goes on or how does it go, we can say, well, you know, the police are here to do such and such, and
I
or
hope
the
you're not
Ramsey
taking
County
a
Sheriff.
picture now.
We'll show you how Century College is I knew that was going to happen.
I should have asked how to pronounce that name.
You said it.
Oh,
you nailed it.
Because when I first read this, I was like, yesterday I'm like, Vetty? I'm going
Yeah,
Vetty.
it's
It sounds,
Vetty.
it rolls
It sounds
off,
cooler,
it
doesn't it?
rolls off the tongue.
That doesn't
good.
sound cool. Betty sounds cool.
All right, we did that already.
He's not cool though.
We did
We
that.
got that on tape. We're gonna play it for him. We'll just. Sorry, I gotta get in here quick.
There's a lot of F's in that one.
You know how I like F words.
I know.
I
Really?
live for F words.